So we're going to go through the threading of the Amber Air S400. Now, as the name suggests, it is an air threading overlocker. So if we open up this front cover, normally on an overlocker, there is a lot more going on in this section here in order to thread the upper and the lower loopers. And that tends to be the bit of the threading that can put people off. Because this is a jet air, it makes it much easier, and we're going to go through that now. So there are a couple of things that you need to remember. The first of one is to flick this switch over to the threading symbol. So that moves over. You then need to move your hand wheel, turn it towards you until hear that click? So that is now locked into place. So all these are now locked into position, ready for the threading. You've then got this lever, which just switches between the two loopers depending on which you're threading. So you always have that pointing towards the looper you are about to thread. So you've got some guides along the top, which you pop your thread through. And again, thread with your presser foot up. That means that the thread will definitely get into those tension discs in the middle there, like you would with the sewing machine. So now you need to have enough thread pulled off that it's going to make it all the way through and out the other side. So then you're going to put the thread end into the little hole. Just push a fair amount through. You lift this lever, push it down, and you can hear the push of air going through, and the thread has gone all the way through. Now, no matter what overlocker you've got, tweezers will be your best friend when it comes to threading. Okay, so now I can just grab the end of the thread that has come through the looper and just pull away any excess thread and pull that out towards the back. You see I pulled off too much there, but it's better to have more than not enough. So now I'm going to do the next looper, so I'm going to flick that switch across so that it will go through the next section. Again, put that through those few dials. Pop the end through there. There we go. And then you can just pull any excess thread through. Now I'm going to do that again with a little bit more of a close-up so that you can see it a bit more clearly of how it actually is being pushed through. Okay, so I've brought the camera right in close just to give you hopefully a better view. So I'm just going to rethread this one. So I'm going to pop the thread through that hole, and you just need to push the end in. Okay, so this thread is going to get pushed all the way through and it will come out of this section here. There we go. So now I've got the end there, which I can then grab with my tweezers and just pull any excess through. And again, show you an up close of the next one. So remember to flick that dial across. Make that end into the hole. Pull your lever up. And this one is going to shoot out this looper here. There we go. So you can see I've got my loopers threaded, as easy as that. So once those loopers are threaded and you've popped your thread out towards the back, just remember to flick this switch back over so when you're ready to start sewing you can, and close that cover up. Then you've got your two needle threads. So again, you've got the tension discs at the top that you pop your thread through. Follow those paths around. Okay. Now, Not only has this got air threading loopers, it has got a needle threader. So again, I'm going to come in nice and close to hopefully show you in a bit better angle of how to thread the needle. Okay, so when I get to this point, I actually pop my presser foot down just because it gives me a little bit more room to use the needle threader. If you've used a sewing machine needle threader, then this works in a very similar way, apart from we've got 2 needles instead of 1. So this is your needle threader, which you pull down. Now you'll see that there is a little L and an R. So depending on whether you're threading the left needle or the right needle, you simply just pull that across. Okay, so if you're threading the right hand needle, you pull it across to the R, sorry, and if you're threading the left hand needle, you pull it across to the left. So you bring that all the way down until it hugs behind the needle. I'm going to pop your thread under that hook and under that hook there. Let me just, if you want to, you can pop the cover down if you're finding that that's getting in the way. Okay, and then you're going to take the threader back up, and a loop forms behind the needle for you to then pull through. Okay, so I've just zoomed out a little bit because the lever for the needle threader is actually just up on the side of the machine here. So this here is what you will actually be pulling down to take the needle all the way down, wrap around the needle, and then pull it back up to take the thread back through the eye of the needle. Okay, and then if you go to thread your second needle, it's just a case of remembering to pull that lever across. Or obviously, you don't have to use a needle threader, you can just thread it the old-fashioned way by eye if you prefer. But the needle threader is there if you need it. So I've now got this set up ready for a 4-thread overlock. So every threading path is being used, so both loopers and both needles. All my tensions are set to 3 to start with, which is sort of your standard setting to for a medium weight fabric. To start off, I'm going to hold all my 4 threads at the back and just sew without any fabric to create a chain. Okay, and then you should instantly see your threads chaining all together, and this would be a good indication as to whether you're threaded up correctly. And I'm going to put my tray on the front so that when I put my fabric through, all the scraps will fall into there rather than on the floor, which is great. And then I'm just going to pop some cotton fabric through just to do a little test piece to make sure that it is stitching how I want it. Now again, when I get to the end of the fabric, I want to do like I did at the start and just chain some of the thread. So I'm going to carry on sewing off the fabric. Okay, and then there is a thread cutter on the side of the machine. And there we go, 1 4-thread overlock stitch. I haven't had to adjust any tensions whatsoever. And you can see that that has stitched out really, really nicely. So I'm just going to talk about some of the other dials and settings of the Amber Air S400. So these discs are your tensions. So each threading path has its own individual tension. Now I always start mine on 3 and then adjust accordingly depending on the fabric. So you can just literally push the dial down or up depending on what you need to adjust your tension to. On the side here we have got stitch length and also differential feed. Now your stitch length is exactly the same as if you were on a sewing machine. If you've got thicker fabric, then you would need to take your stitch length higher. if you are on a finer fabric, or if you're doing rolled hem, those sort of techniques, you would take your stitch length down. And there is actually an R there to help you get it in the right position for a rolled hem. So that's the inside dial. The outside dial is the differential feed. Now this adjusts the feed teeth. The feed teeth are what pull the fabric through. Now there is a set at the back and a set at the front. And you may have to adjust this, especially if you're sewing stretchy fabrics, to help pull the fabric through evenly. So I'm going to start it, I'm going to take it lower, and I'm going to run a stretchy fabric through it. Put my press of it down. And you can see it's curved it, made it really wavy, which is not what we want. So I will then now need to take my differential feed up. So I'm going to take it to just past the 1 and see if that makes a difference. And you can see instantly that's much straighter and better finish than what we had to start with. Alternatively, if my differential feed was too high, it would have the opposite effect. So it would curve the fabric away. So you can see it's now actually curving it inwards, which is not what you want when you're trying to sew a nice straight seam. So that's how the differential feed works. So again, depending on your fabric, you would have to adjust that accordingly. So always have some test pieces to hand, just so you can make sure that it's all set up how you want it.